Hey everyone, welcome to True Terror Files, the channel where real horror lives. Here we explore true stories of fear, the unknown, and the unexplained, from chilling encounters to terrifying real-life events. If you love creepy true stories and things that keep you up at night, you're in the right place. And in today's video, we're diving into 4 disturbing true night shift horror stories that will make you think twice before working alone after dark.
Working the night shift can feel like living in another world. The streets are empty, the lights hum a little louder, and every shadow seems to move just enough to play tricks on your eyes. For some people, those tricks turn into real encounters. In this video, we'll go through 4 disturbing true stories from people who worked overnight shifts, stories that will make you think twice about ever working alone at night. Story 1. The Man Who Never Checked In. I used to work the night shift at a budget motel on the edge of town. Only 2 floors, maybe 30 rooms in total, the kind of place people only stop at if they're passing through. My hours were from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., which meant most nights were dead silent. I'd sit at the desk, check the cameras now and then, and drink bad coffee until the sun came up. One night, around 11, a man buzzed to be let in. He looked like he was in his 40s, tall, wearing a faded baseball cap and carrying a backpack. He asked for a room, handed me a card, and everything seemed normal. I swiped it, gave him a key to room 214, and watched him head toward the elevator. The only thing that stuck with me was the way he looked at me. His eyes stayed on mine a second too long before he walked away. An hour later, I glanced up from my phone and saw him again, but this time he wasn't going to his room. He was sitting in the lobby lounge, facing the TV that wasn't even on. He didn't say anything, didn't pull out a phone, didn't move at all, just sat there. At first I thought maybe he couldn't sleep, but after 30 minutes, the way he stared straight ahead started to crawl under my skin. That's when I checked the system. His name wasn't there. No reservation, no payment, no record of the transaction. I checked the keycard logs. Room 214 had never been opened that night, which meant he never went to the room at all. He had just walked out of the lobby, circled back, and sat down like he belonged. My chest felt tight as I realized I had basically let a stranger into the locked hotel and he wasn't a guest at all. I called my manager, but she brushed it off, told me to keep an eye on him and call the police if he did anything threatening. But watching him slowly shift places, standing in the hallway, lingering in dark corners, sometimes standing only 15 feet away from me and just staring, was more than threatening enough. At one point, I caught him on the cameras just standing outside a random guest's room, just standing there, staring at the door. That's when I called 911. By the time officers arrived, he was back in the lounge, sitting like nothing had happened. They escorted him out and told me later his card was stolen. He had no bags, no reservation, no reason to be there at all. He had been wandering the halls for hours, standing outside guests' rooms, circling the lobby and watching me from the shadows. The scariest part wasn't that he had gotten in. It was knowing that if I hadn't checked the system, I might never have realized he didn't belong until it was too late. Story 2. The Parking Lot Shadow. I used to work overnight security for a big box retail store. My shift ran from 9 p.m. until 5 a.m., and most of my job was walking the perimeter, checking locks, and watching the cameras. 99% of the time it was uneventful, just hours of silence broken only by the buzz of the fluorescent lights and the sound of trucks on the highway nearby. One night in November, I stepped outside to do my usual parking lot patrol. The air was cold enough that I could see my breath. The lot was empty, except for the dim glow of a few flickering light poles. I was halfway across when I noticed something, a figure at the far end of the lot. At first, I thought it was a customer who'd left their car overnight, but the longer I looked, the more I realized it wasn't right. The figure wasn't near a car, it wasn't moving. It just stood there in the shadows, between 2 lampposts. I called out, but got no answer. The shape didn't shift, didn't flinch, just stood there. I radioed into the cameras and asked my coworker to check the feed, but he told me the angle was too dark. Nothing came up. The moment I took a few cautious steps forward, the figure seemed to glide out of the shadows. Not walk, glide. I froze. My flashlight caught nothing but the concrete and the faint outline of painted parking spaces. Whatever it was gone. Trying to shake it off, I finished my round and went back inside. But when I checked the monitor myself, my blood ran cold. At the exact moment I was staring at that dark figure, the exterior camera showed me alone in the lot. Nobody standing there. Nothing for me to be looking at. Just me staring into an empty stretch of asphalt. For weeks afterward, I dreaded walking that section of the lot. And every so often, when I'd pass between those two flickering lampposts, I could swear I saw someone standing there again, just out of the corner of my eye, watching, waiting.
Story 3. The elevator that should have been empty. I work night shifts at a hospital, mostly doing janitorial work. The halls after midnight are nothing like the day. They're quiet, cold, and filled with that strange emptiness that makes even normal sounds feel wrong. The hum of vending machines, the squeak of my cartwheels, the echo of my own footsteps. It never bothered me much until one night. Around 2 a.m., I was mopping on the 4th floor near the elevators. Hardly anyone was around. Most visitors were long gone, and only a few nurses moved between rooms. That's when I heard it. The sound of an elevator ding. I turned to look, expecting a nurse or maybe a doctor, but when the door slid open, the elevator was empty, completely empty. Still, the doors stayed open longer than they should have, as if waiting for someone to step inside. I brushed it off, but when I turned back to my cart, the hairs on my arm stood straight up. The doors hadn't closed, and I could hear footsteps. Slow, deliberate footsteps echoing out of the elevator and across the floor. I froze, staring at the empty space in front of me. No one was there, but the sound was real, heavy, like work boots hitting the tile. I backed up until I was against the wall, heart pounding in my throat. The sound walked right past me, then faded into the hallway behind me. I forced myself to turn around, and of course, nothing. Just an empty corridor lit by flickering fluorescent lights. Later, when I mentioned it to one of the older nurses, she gave me a strange look. Then she said, "You're not the first to hear him. Years ago, a maintenance worker died of a heart attack while riding that elevator. People say he still walks his rounds at night, making sure everything's clean." After that, I never cleaned near the elevators past midnight, because even if the hallways looked empty, I could always hear those heavy footsteps moving somewhere just out of sight. Story 4. The gas station window. I used to work the graveyard shift at a small gas station off the highway, midnight to 8 a.m. Most of the time it was boring, a few truckers filling up, the occasional drunk customer, but mostly silence. The worst part was the giant front window. It gave me a clear view of the pumps and parking lot, but it also made me feel like anyone out there had a clear view of me. One night, around 3 a.m., a storm had just rolled through. The lot was wet, reflecting the buzzing yellow lights overhead. I was restocking behind the counter when I noticed movement outside. At first, I thought it was a customer pulling up, but no cars had arrived. Then I saw it, a man standing just beyond the pumps, facing the store. He wasn't moving, wasn't walking up, just standing there, in the rain, completely still. I waited for him to come inside, but he didn't. He just stood there, head tilted slightly like he was studying me. Minutes passed, then more minutes. He didn't move an inch. Finally, I picked up the phone to call the police, but as soon as I glanced back at the window, he was gone. Just gone. I stepped outside, looked around the lot, checked behind the pumps. Nothing. Not a single footprint in the wet pavement. I tried to shake it off, but later, when I checked the security cameras, my stomach dropped. The feed showed the parking lot exactly as I'd seen it. The rain, the lights, the reflection. But there was never a man out there.
On the tape, I was staring at nothing. For 10 whole minutes, I had been watching empty space, convinced someone was standing there, watching me. That night, I learned the hardest part of the night shift isn't staying awake. It's knowing that in the dead hours, when the world is silent and you're all alone, sometimes you're not as alone as you think. Working overnight can feel endless, lonely, and quiet. But every so often, the silence breaks by footsteps, by shadows, by eyes staring at you through the dark. These 4 stories are reminders that the night shift holds more than just exhaustion. For some, it holds something much darker. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want more true horror stories, make sure to subscribe and leave a comment with your own night shift experiences. Who knows? Your story might be next.